It's a great question, and one that we've wrestled with. On our way off the ship, we were like, we're done. We came, we saw, we conquered, we're good. We hadn't even taken off yet. And my wife were talking about, again, like our trip in December, coming back with the kids, experiencing it again.
Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the DCL Duo podcast, brought to you by My Path Unwinding Travel. And Sam, it's jingle time. Do the jingle.
Yeah, simply the best, better than all the rest.
All right, this week's listener review, and I've got to apologize because I lost track of where we were in the U.S. when we detoured off. This is why we detoured off into the international reviews. So I have picked a review, and this is just where we will start up. We will pick up where we hopefully left off or close to it. If you don't hear your review at the top of one of our shows, you can always reach out if you think we've gone by it, and we will make sure to get to it. But for now, this week's review comes from JBAUD. Who writes, "My favorite podcast, ! I am a big Disney Cruise Line fan. We've used DCL to see the world as a family. Listening to these podcasts reminds me of why I love DCL so much. But it has also given me tremendous insight into the other options available. I do agree with many of the points discussed on the podcast. I so appreciate hearing about other cruise lines, different ports, and different views all around. The show is a perfect blend of the love of Disney, the cruising lifestyle, and the vast array of options out there. I appreciate the cruise reviews. Everyone they interview has such an interesting point of view. I hope that in the future I can meet up with Sam and Brian on a cruise. So far, I have listened to at least 45 episodes. I can't wait for the day that I have successfully listened to them all. Thank you for creating a forum to talk, discuss, enjoy, critique, and share a love of Disney Cruise Line. Please keep it up. Maybe one day you'll interview me." So there you go, Sam. There's our listener review.
I love that.
That was 2 years ago, so hopefully JB has made it through a few more episodes.
A few more than 45. Yeah, we got a few more in the catalog for you than 45. What are you up to, Brian?
600, and we'll hit 640 something this week. So yes, tons of them, tons of episodes, and so. Actually working through trying to build an app for everybody out there. I'll just say that. So take advantage of all the transcripts of the great guests that we've had. So with that, I will just remind people one of the easiest ways to help support the show. Head over to Apple Podcasts, hit those 5 stars. If you leave us a written review along with your 5-star review, we will read it on the air at the top of one of our main episodes. And as I've taken to saying these days, you know, if you're on Spotify, if you're on one of the other podcast platforms, they all have rating systems. Yeah, they just all have rating systems. Just max out whatever rating they give you. Thumbs up, stars, popcorn buckets, I don't know what. But max those out. It helps us across the board if you're not listening to us on Apple Podcasts.
Extra fresh tomatoes on.
There you go. Certified
fresh. Yeah.
All right, Sam, over to you because we got one doozy of a topic and a guest today, and I'm super excited to talk about it.
We have a great show planned for today. We are so lucky to be able to have listeners who are sailing on the Disney Adventure. Since we did not sail on the Disney Adventure for her Maiden, we weren't invited on a preview. As we understand it, American media in general was not really invited. So anyone who went over there from any American media source spent their own money to go do it, which I totally understand and respect, but it's a big trip and, you know, school's in session. So it wasn't workable for us, but I'm super excited because one of those guests is joining us today who got to sail on the Disney Adventure Maiden Voyage. Welcome to the show, Rich.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'm a big fan of the show and really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, we're so excited that you reached out to us.
I'm jealous, Rich. You're wearing the pullover that I would love to own because they don't make the Nike ones here in the U.S. Like Disney seems to have ended it with Nike here in the U.S. for most things.
I think the Treasure is the last Nike one that I have. The Destiny wasn't Nike, and yeah, they've got these as on the Adventure now.
Well, dear Disney Cruise Line, bring back the Nike gear. I buy it. I'm a reliable Nike pullover anytime you have one. So there you go.
Absolutely. Now, Rich, before we dive into talking about the adventure, traveling over to Singapore, all of those things, we always have to ask our guests, where did your love of Disney come from? When did you start Disney cruising? Like, give us your background. I know you are a travel advisor as well. And so I'm wondering if those things are connected or what. So why don't you give us a little bit of your story?
Yeah, the love came first before we became a travel advisor. I grew up in Southern California, and as a kid, we made trips to Disneyland, and it's just that nostalgic feeling. When I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, I think we took our first Disney cruise. At the time, it was the Big Red Boat. I don't remember a ton of it, but I think that was technically my first Disney sailing. Doesn't count towards my Castaway Club membership, but nonetheless, my wife and I ended up taking our kids in 2017 on our first real Disney cruise. Our kids at the time had been to the parks. We thought we were park people. My son got his first haircut at Disney World.
Yeah. He got the classic haircut in the salon or the barber shop. Yeah.
At the barber shop, he did. And one of his first words, we had the Savannah view at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And he just kept saying, wow, over and over again. And so we thought we were just Disney people, Disney park people at the time. As our kids got a little bit older, they still liked the Disney, but they wanted to do something that was more beach incorporated. And so we weren't sure how a cruise would work. So we lived in Georgia and we drove down and we just did a 3-night on the Dream in 2017. And that was our first experience. We really loved it. Everything from the ketchup Mickey Mouse ears, those little touches, them cutting up the steak. Our kids even got pulled up and the golden Mickeys during the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs portion.
Oh,
we just thought,
they were supposed to be dwarves.
They were the dwarfs. And we thought all of this Disney magic, like we have to figure out a way to continue this. So 2018, we did another cruise. We jumped onto a 7-night Western Caribbean. Absolutely loved it. It was a magical experience. And then obviously with COVID, we took a pause. We had some booked for 2020 that just never happened. And then December of 22, it's been a ride. We've gone on, I think, 10 since that time. So we've been moving.
Nice. So you've hit your platinum status, getting closer to Pearl, it sounds
we
like.
Have. Pearl is we can see it off in the distance a little bit. Yes.
I love it. Now, what made you decide to book the adventure in Singapore? And was it the whole family? Was it just you? Like, who went on this adventure? Pun intended.
Yeah. I think we'll end up saying that quite a bit on this episode. So we have done all of the ships. Our cruise prior to this was the Maiden of the Destiny.
Oh, so we were on together.
We were on. I know. We've probably been on similar sailings. We just never bumped into each other. But after doing that, again, kind of a completionist at heart, we have multiple Disney lists that we were trying to accomplish. And we saw this. We'd actually booked December of this year, a 4-night with the family. But we kept watching the Maiden. And as the Maiden slipped, we weren't able to make it on the original sailing, but as we saw it move to March, it became kind of within our window of possibilities. So we weren't able to bring our kids, as you had mentioned before, with school commitments. It was difficult to pull them. So this was our first cruise with just my wife and I. We went with 2 friends of ours that we'd met on other Disney cruise, and they joined us from Minnesota. We met in Korea, and
That's amazing. I always say cruise friends are the best friends. We have made several great friends through sailing on Disney Cruise Line. I love that you guys went all the way to Singapore together. And now, so the 3-night Maiden ended up sort of fitting in your schedule, but obviously not in the kids' schedule.
Correct. And then we kept watching the prices too, because logistically getting over to Singapore, it can be really expensive and time consuming to get over there. So we ended up, my wife found tickets for an inside cabin. We haven't done that before, but we found one. It was less than $2,000 for the 2 of us. And then it was on me to figure out how we can get over there logistically for a reasonable price. And I ended up finding tickets. We used points to get I live in Utah, to get from Utah to Korea for 70,000 points round trip. And then from Korea, we booked tickets nonstop to Singapore and back. So we ended up 3 different tickets. We flew Singapore Air from Korea down to Singapore, and then Korean Air back from Singapore to Korea, and then back to Utah.
Wow, that's like a complicated, because you're not booking it all through one airline, so you don't have like, you got to get your bags and transfer and all of that kind of stuff. But it is probably a much cheaper way to do things if you can find good prices.
I'm gonna be giving you a call, Rich, because we've been toying around with trying to do the adventure, and I've been going back and forth with an extensive conversation with Claude about my best strategy, and it is getting
Claude is
complicated
AI
rapidly.
for those who don't know what Brian's talking
Claude's
about.
my new best friend. He always listens to me. So I'm going to be giving you a call, Rich, because I am struggling to figure out the right strategy here.
Yeah,
it's hard. And as I'm looking right now, planning our December trip, I'm doing similar things. It's kind of a mix and match. If you look directly at flights from your hometown to Singapore, you're probably going to experience a little sticker shock. But I think if you mix and match points, it was less than $1,000 for my wife and I to fly. That was our out-of-pocket cost.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, did you spend any time in Korea first, or was it just kind of a stopover to change flights, or on the back end?
It was really a stopover. We did stay one night. So the way the flight ended up working is we landed in Seoul, I believe, around 4:30 p.m. So we stayed the night in Seoul. There's a hotel very close to the airport there. And then we got up the next morning and took like a 9:30, 10 o'clock flight from Seoul down to Singapore, getting us to Singapore in the afternoon.
What was the total travel for you? Like how many
hours?
Yeah, it was plus 2 days, regardless of how you do it. But I think it was 14 hours from Utah to Korea, and then it's 6 hours from Korea to Singapore.
That's not that bad. I mean, I know, it's still a day of like being of flying. Plus, of course, you had an overnight in Korea. But that's actually, if you think about it, think about how far away it is. It's actually not terrible.
It's pretty doable. And depending on where you live in the US, I think there's a lot of those options. I'm picking on Korea because it's a Korean Air Delta hub. And that's the most convenient for us. Getting home was even easier. We had about an hour and a half, 2 hours layover in Korea. You get through, you go through security again, and we just did carry-ons. So it was very simple for us. So by the time
you're blowing my mind, carry-ons like to a Disney cruise, period, but all the way in Singapore. Oh my God.
We were nervous, especially with the Maiden Voyage, getting all of the
stuff,
the gifts and things, being able to get that home. We had to get creative with it on the way back, but we were able to make it happen. And
yeah, you just throw away all your underwear, right? And your
that's right. we had that conversation. We're like, what can I rebuy back in the States to make room for some of this stuff?
I have intentionally in the past packed going, these are the oldest pairs of underwear that I have. So if I need room, they're going in the garbage.
Just going in the garbage. I mean, these are the things we do for like the good Disney merch. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
All right, well, let's talk about Singapore. So obviously, Singapore is a metropolitan place. How did you sort of do research on where you were going to stay and like where you wanted to eat and things like that before and after the sailing? Because obviously you've got to get in at least a day in advance, maybe more, because you've got this huge time adjustment that you've got to make. It's really like it's like from the East Coast, it's like 12 hours. So for you, it's like 14 hours. For us, it's like 15 hours.
I had the benefit. I've been to Singapore for work before. So I was familiar with the area. We stayed, there's kind of this central Marina Bay area that the Sands Hotel is located at. There's gardens by the bay. There's a lot of things right there in this main area. So we ended up picking a hotel. Again, I used points to cash in, so we didn't end up paying for anything from a hotel perspective, but within walking distance. And I think that's one of the nice things about Singapore is it's very, very convenient. It's very condensed, and you can get around either by walking, or Uber doesn't work there, but they have an app called Grab, and utilizing Grab, it's the same thing as Uber or Lyft. You can get anywhere within about 30 minutes roughly. It's pretty convenient.
Now, I know that Disney Cruise Line has this special, I'm going to call it a scavenger hunt. It's not really a scavenger hunt, but you could go around to a bunch of different stations that were all in like hotels around this marina area to get these medallions. I got to ask, did you go around and do this little medallion hunt? I think there was like 7 or 8 of them. I think they're still going until I think like April 20th or something. I saw one of their
while supplies last.
Yeah, of course, while supplies last. Yeah, but Rich, did you go and do this little? I mean, we all we're a sucker for a Disney Cruise Line medallion or or a challenge coin. That's what they kind of look like. I'm curious.
I wish I would have known that going into it. We actually stumbled across a couple of them, and so when we saw our first one, we had no idea what it was. Googled it, and then found some other ones kind of as we were walking around the city. But no, I wish I would have been more aware of that challenge and those milestones around the city prior to. But that would have been really cool.
I got to ask Rich real fast: is the hat from the adventure too? That is a sweet looking hat.
Oh, thanks. No, it is not. It's a golf hat actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I couldn't tell what the logo was.
Yeah, Disney loves the white on white. So
the white on white. Yeah, it's that's true. It's true. It goes very well with the.
That's what I thought. It went well with it, and
yeah, absolutely.
Disney.
Yeah, I gotta say, I only found out about the medallion thing literally, I think 2 days ago. I saw something about it on I think it's the Disney Cruise Line SG, which is the Singapore Instagram account, and they had posted something about it with pictures of all of the different sort of locations, and they basically look like a little display with a funnel and a character. Now, it's not a character or a person in a character suit; it's not like that. But there's like one of them is like Toy Story themed, and one of them was like Marvel themed, and so you could go, and each coin had a different theming. Of course, today I'm wearing my ears in Baymax and Mochi in honor of San Francisco on board the Disney Adventure, which is like the one land that I gotta say is the most attractive, I think, for Brian and I. We both love Big Hero 6. So, but let's dive into talking about the actual cruise. This is a 3-night Maiden, so it's got to be jam-packed with stuff. I don't know if there were, special things other than, of course, they always give you special gifts, but sometimes there are special performances. This is kind of a hard thing to do, though, in a 3-night cruise. So, Rich, what time did you get on board? I know, like, port arrival times, we sort of know what they look like in the U.S., but I'm curious as to what they were in Singapore.
Yeah, we had a 11:45 a.m. boarding time. I was a little bit nervous. I wasn't sure what to expect going to the port for the first time. So we actually got there at 10:45. And again, our experience with the Destiny Maiden, you were waiting outside in that parking little garage area. It was hot, and Singapore is quite warm as well. But the process of getting in and through was really smooth. I think it was really well organized. Again, with 11:45, we walked right into the building, and about 11:15, they started moving us through the security line to start checking in. And then there was a little bit of a delay boarding, but we ended up boarding probably right around noon.
Awesome. Now, I got to say, like, when you get on board, you don't walk into like a grand hall or atrium like you do on the other ships. Of course, depending upon the port, sometimes you can't walk into the grand hall or atrium, but typically that's what you do. What's the welcome like, or what was it like for you all on that Maiden?
Yeah, it's unique, and maybe that's a word that we'll use, throughout this discussion too. So first, when you get called, your typical boarding experience, you'll stop for like the pre-boarding pictures. You, as you mentioned, you go to the atrium, you get your name called. This is very, very different. You go in and you actually leave immigration, which I haven't experienced on a cruise before, but you actually scan your passport, you leave immigration, and you start going up the ramps, and you get scanned in kind of on the deck level. So you board on the decks, the outside decks. There's people guiding you, and you walk in, and really your first steps into the ship. For us, it was on deck 7, the elevator banks. And there were 4 or 5 cast members there just clapping, which was great. It was very welcoming, but there was definitely no, the Disney Adventure welcomes, blah, blah, blah family. There was not that experience. So that was a little different. The whole time I kept wondering, where we're supposed to go, what we're supposed to do. Again, we were guided, but it just felt like a very different boarding experience than what we've had in the past.
Now, where did you go first? Like, are you checking the app immediately to figure out, like, okay, where's lunch being offered? What time is the, sail away party? Like, where's guest services? Like, did you find that you needed to, check the app a lot to figure out where you were going to go next?
The app wasn't working initially.
Oh, no.
So our first stop was our room. So we went up, we were on deck 15. So we went from 7 to 15, which sounds like a lot, but again, there's something that's interesting is the number 4 is not used on the ship anywhere. Number 4, for those who aren't familiar, in Asia, especially Korea, Japan, China, it sounds the word for death in number 4
it's like
very
13.
Similar. It's exactly.
It's like unlucky. Yeah.
Yeah. So you won't find staterooms with number 4. You won't find decks 4 or 14. So navigating the ship, that was a little different, but we got up to our room, we got our gifts. And then after kind of exploring the room, we beeline up to deck 17, I believe it was, which is where the Pixar area was with the slides and the pools. We wanted to really check out that outside space. And I really wanted to check out on deck 18 is the roller coaster, and kind of the Avengers area.
Yeah, you've got the Iron Cycle, you've got that Groot spin, you've got the cars. I don't remember the name of the cars, but yeah, tell us about the Pixar area with the water slides and the pools and whatnot. Like, was anybody, probably nobody using it yet because or maybe just people starting to kind of gather.
There was just people starting to gather in that area. One thing that really stuck out, and I think the adventure did really, really well, my initial impression was how green it was. There's a lot of outside greenery. If you've seen the pictures, there's bushes and trees and things that were incorporated throughout the outside space of the ship that I thought were really, really well done. I'd love to see that on other ships. Honestly, it was very welcoming and just kind of really brought that outdoor space and made it feel a little bit more alive. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of people at the time, so it was a great opportunity. We were able to get some pictures of the outdoor space with very few or no people at all in them. And then kind of explored. The pizza shop was already working, so we were able to swing by and kind of grab that customary slice of pizza up on the pool deck. And then, from there, we were just walking around.
Now, what about the Marvel area that's got the coaster, the spin thing, and the cars, right? I know that the Iron Cycle coaster was not up for the Maiden, so I already know that. And so, you get to see it, but not actually ride on it. Did you get to ride the other 2 rides, and were they up and running the whole time?
We did not. So the what was referred to a lot on the ship was the Dumbo Groot, because the Groot ride it's very similar to like a baby Dumbo ride. That wasn't running, and neither were the go-karts on the first day. We didn't end up doing it just after we watched it. It just didn't seem like something that we would have wanted to do. But
not very adventurous, right?
Not very adventurous. But the Iron Cycle,
like kiddie rides.
The Iron Cycle we were looking forward to, and we were hoping throughout the cruise that it was going to open up. They were doing some testing on it. We didn't personally see it. We talked to some other people that saw them running it, doing some test cycles, but that would have been something that I really would have enjoyed doing.
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing that that's not working on a Maiden Voyage because it was a major attraction on board. Yeah,
exactly. And our compensation, if you will, for that, we did get $100 credit, which sure, but it would have, to your point, Brian, it really would have been nice, especially since the initial Maiden was pushed out, getting kind of those bugs worked prior to this one. You would have thought there might have been a more opportunity to get that worked out prior to the sailing.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, I mean, the $100 is actually a pretty nice give back because let's be honest, with that number of passengers, even when that thing is running, not every passenger is going to be able to get on it. Not every able-bodied passenger, I should say, because obviously it's not going to be, you probably have to be a certain height, probably have to be frankly under a certain weight and maybe even under a certain height. It's probably got some size restrictions on it. And of course, people who have mobility issues are probably just looking at what the ride vehicle looks like. I'm not sure somebody with mobility issues is even going to be able to get on that thing. But yeah, so that's not a bad consolation, even though obviously, of course, you want to get on it. I'd love to shift over and talk about some of the deck. I'm going to call them deck parties because that's what we call them on the other ships, right? But on the Disney Adventure, they all happen in that imagination garden space. One of the things you mentioned up front was all the greenery. I think the Imagination Garden is a wonderful example of that. It actually, as Brian has referenced on our a couple of our other shows, it reminds us a lot of the sort of the Central Park feature on Royal's Oasis class ships and Icon class ships. And so they have a lot of greenery, and it's really nice to see Disney bringing on some greenery in all the open spaces. But I'm curious, did you go to the sail away party? I know you were in an inside stateroom, so you didn't have one of those garden view rooms, which I think, by the way, are killer. Like if you have a garden view room that sees the stage, like you're going to get amazing views of that, like Avengers show and the Duffy show and all of that. But I'm curious, did you go to that show, and did you go to the sail away party, and did you go to the other shows in that space?
We did. We hit most of them. So the sail away party was actually offered, I might get this wrong, but I believe 3, maybe 4 times. So it was, throughout the day, it was all in that space. We stopped, one of our first places, we stopped at Mowgli's and had lunch there. And then after going to Mowgli's, they were just starting the sail away party in that space. So we walked out of the restaurant essentially and experienced the sail away party. And it was very similar to all the other ones. Again, you're in that space, so you don't see the ship leaving. And we were in one of the earlier ones. So the ship actually hadn't even left at that time. People were still boarding when they had the first sail away party, and maybe the first couple sail away parties. But it was good. They didn't hand out the typical, the champagne or the my daughter was calling them the sparkly drinks.
The Cloudum.
Sometimes you get those on the sail away parties. We didn't experience any of that, but again, it was. I thought it was really well done, and kind of the entertainment throughout all the other shows. This was up there with any of the other ships, in my opinion. They did a really, really great job.
Yeah, I've been hearing great things about the Duffy show and about, of course, the Avengers show. What did you think about those two specific? I'm assuming you saw those two.
I didn't make it to the Duffys.
Oh my God.
I know. And I'm so sorry. I hope we can be friends after this.
Thanks for joining us, Rich. We'll go ahead and wrap it up right here. Yeah.
But we made it to the Avengers. We made it to Baymax. There's a workout.
His workout show.
The workout show. And again, those were really well done. I think the Avengers one might be one of the best open shows that Disney offers. Some of the stunts and things that were done in there were pretty incredible to be able to think about logistically how they do that on a ship that could be rocking in waves and other things. Like it really, really is well done.
Yeah, those cable lifts are just, I have to say, I got to give a shout out to Disney for releasing that, we call it Imagineering episode on YouTube, on their Walt Disney Imagineering YouTube, because that explains sort of the difficulty of creating those rigs, and for these crazy, tricks that people are doing. They're, hanging over the audience, and we see that at its sort of first inception on the other ships, where you've got the cable that goes across, and either Jack Sparrow or Mickey Mouse go across, and they're on the Pirate Night. But this is at another level. It's like a 3D, right? Because it's like they can put them in any different place, not just a straight line. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and the choreography to that point, the aerial choreography, also what was going on the stage. And something else that I didn't know going into this, but really came to appreciate, was in that stage area, the whole back area is a screen. And that screen changes throughout the sailing to whatever show it is. But the quality of the pictures, and I would say that throughout the entire ship, all of the screens, it might have just been my lack of sleep or I don't know what, but it was incredible. They were really high def and even look 3D at some points. They were awesome.
That's fantastic. All right, I got to ask, I got to shift over to food. You mentioned Mowgli's. I want to talk quick service food specifically because there's some new quick service options on board this ship. And of course, new specialty dining options as well. What food outside of main dining, what food were you able to experience on your sailing?
Yeah, so we did Mowgli's to start. We did cosmic kebabs. Both were exceptional, especially if you like Indian food, if you like that Mediterranean style with the kebabs. It was fantastic. We went to what was it called, the Ohana Grill, and I wasn't able to eat there. We had a wine tasting in a 30-minute window we could eat. My burger took more than 30 minutes to come out, so we had to miss it to go to the wine tasting. But we did. So I was able to experience 2 out of the 4 kind of quick service meals. I did room service one day just to try out.
You got to try and see if it's as good.
Got to see what it is.
You got to see if they've got the all hands on deck cheese platter.
All hands on deck cheese platter. The burgers were different. It was interesting. No French fries. You get vegetable chips instead. So healthy options, I guess, are out there. I
gotta boo the
buffalo
veggie
wings.
chips. The buffalo wings, that's a good one. Yeah.
But then we did as a special meal. We did do on night one. We did the omakase dinner at Mike and Sulley's, which might have been my favorite meal ever on a Disney ship. It was incredible. We've done Remy and Palo and Enchante. This was really a special experience.
Oh, cool. I have to say, I was thinking it was just going to be like omakase sushi, and it's not. It's more of like a chef tasting menu, like an Enchante or Remy is that, I mean, like, that's what I've seen from pictures.
It's not just sushi, it's teppanyaki.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. But it's not the teppanyaki, Brian. The teppanyaki is, that's the separate, you can choose, right? You can do sushi, you can do teppanyaki, or you can do the omakase. But the omakase is more akin to an Enchante tasting menu. Is that how the best way to describe it, Rich?
I think so. With the difference being, it's more like a chef's table. So you have the chef and the sous chef. We had 8 people at our dinner. So our party of 4 and then 2 other parties of 2. They could have sat another 4 people. So a max of 12 is what I believe they can hold. And this, again, the chef, the sous chef, they're making all your food right there. So you get to watch these incredible presentation of food as they dish up. There's and they serve you, your different courses. They explain what you're eating, where the food came from, why it's significant, why they chose, this ingredient or that ingredient. And I believe there was 9 courses, 9 different tastings through that. So it was great.
It's more like than a chef's tasting at a restaurant, like a Napa Rose does a chef's counter, and other restaurants do that as well. That sounds amazing.
Are you listening to our show because you want to make the most out of your next vacation? Great news, the fabulous team over at My Path Unwinding Travel can help guide you so you don't miss a thing. Their team of professional travel advisors are caring, knowledgeable, and experienced. It's why we use them to book our own travel. My Path Unwinding Travel is an authorized Disney vacation planner, which means they are recognized by Disney for their expertise and service. They have sailed on all the Disney ships, including in concierge, visited the theme parks, adventured with Disney, relaxed at Aulani, and so much more. Whether it's a Disney cruise, a theme park vacation, or Adventures by Disney, or if you are looking to expand beyond the mouse, My Path Unwinding Travel will elevate your next vacation planning experience. Even if you have already booked, reach out for a complimentary consultation to make your vacation even more magical. Ready to talk to the experts? Head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo or email dclduo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. Thanks, My Path Unwinding, for sponsoring today's show. Now back to the episode.
We got to shift over and ask about main dining, of course, because main dining, you have rotational restaurants. You typically get to go to 3. You skipped 1 because you went for the omakase. Which did you skip, and what were the 2 main dining? Because there's 6 restaurants on board, and I know they're very similar, but not quite identical. There's sort of like 2 animators palette, but after that, they're slightly different. So which ones did you get to go to, Rich?
So we did skip animators. That was our first night. So we didn't get to experience that. The second night we went to Pixar Market. And that was really interesting too. And I would say again, throughout, the food on this ship is incredible, especially if you're an adventurous eater, if you want to kind of jump outside of your comfort zone of chicken nuggets or whatever it might be. They really, I think, did a good job of catering to the different cultures that are coming to experience this ship. So we did Pixar Market, and I ended up having a ramen dish that night, which was fantastic. And then the last night we did Navigators, and that was pretty neat too. The space is set up. For those who don't know, there's a performance that happens throughout the show with some special guests, and we were kind of front and center of that, and really had an awesome table to kind of experience that whole show.
Yeah, I've seen some video clips here and there, and I know it's like Fab Five folks that appear during dinner and do some dancing and whatnot. I don't know, obviously, if there's a storyline or anything like that, and I don't want to spoil it for people, but I definitely could. I think that'll be a crowd pleaser for the ship, and an animator's palette, from what I understand, is doing animation magic, and so but you've experienced that because you've been on all 4 of the classic ships, which all have that built in. As long as you're in a longer sailing, you'll experience that on the other ships.
Strategically, we thought that would probably be the best one to miss, but we did go into the other restaurants too, and I will say the Hollywood Spotlight, although we didn't eat there. If going back, that's going to be one that I'm going to choose to do. You have these massive windows, similar show. And from what I understand, the menus are pretty similar from restaurant to restaurant, but just the space and kind of walking into that restaurant is kind of a treat in itself too. So you really feel like you're part of that Hollywood glitz and glamour. It really puts you in that environment. It's great.
Oh, I love that. I have to say,
is it like 1923 in a way, or like how would you describe the decor?
In a way, but it's also 2 stories. So depending on where you're sitting, you have these big open ceilings. So you don't feel like, sometimes depending on the restaurant, you might, the ceilings are a little bit lower. You are on a cruise ship, but this was, again, you have the 2 stories. It felt nice and open, and the windows went up full 2 stories. The decor, very much that old Hollywood kind of theme. As you're walking into the restaurant, you walk through this corridor of lights. So you have kind of that red carpet feel as you're walking in. I just thought it was really, really well done.
Yeah. And you can actually see those windows if you're looking at the aft of the ship, if you are from, sort of outside, on the dock, for example, watching the ship either pull in or pull out, you can see those windows from the outside to see where that dining room is. I imagine it to be a very cool place to eat as well. Now, Rich, we've got to talk about some other things on board. We've got to talk about the shows. I know there's 2 shows that they're showing. Seize the Adventure, which has a slight difference from, they've got Rapunzel instead of Merida. Is that right? In Seize the Adventure?
So we were not able to see Seize the Adventure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not for lack of effort. So something that I think people should know going into this, there is a bug, whether it's your phone or the Disney app. The time changed on our phone and was different than the Disney app. Even though we didn't cross any time zones, we didn't do anything. We thought we were still on Singapore time. The app was an hour difference. And so we showed up for 7:00. It actually ended up we were there at 8:00 and we had missed the show. A cast member kind of heard us talking and trying to figure out what was going on, came over and said, yeah, unfortunately, they knew that was kind of a bug that other people had experienced as well, is being off by an hour. So just kind of a word of caution to those going on. It's never been my experience on other sailings, but make sure your phone is synced up to the Disney Cruise app. And the Disney Cruise app there is the one you should definitely go off of.
So I wonder if this is something where you've got to set so the ship doesn't change time zones, right? The ship, like it stays on Singapore time zone. So what you need to do is, and this is something that I've had to do in the Caribbean as well, when we are crossing time zones when we're at sea, which is to manually set your phone to the time zone rather than letting your phone decide what time zone based on satellites, because that's where the problem happens, right? So you want to basically lock your phone into Singapore time zone and tell it to not change time zones. And like I said, I've done that when we've been in, I think it's called Atlantic time, which is one time zone past Eastern when you're in St. Thomas, and when you're in Tortola, I believe you're on that time zone. And sometimes that time zone is the same as Eastern, and sometimes it isn't, depending upon daylight savings. But your phone doesn't always know that you're based on where it's, connecting, what phone towers it's connecting to, where you are. And so you've got to sometimes manually do that. So that's my best piece of advice to folks who are in this. So you don't get, off of you have your phone showing one time and the Disney Cruise Line app showing another time. But your best bet is if you don't remember to do that, just make sure when you're looking at the time, you're looking at it in the cruise app, because the cruise app will tell you whatever ship time is. God, that's a pain though. All right. Well, you've seen Seize the Adventure. So the only thing that's different, the only thing that I think Jeremiah told us, the only thing different is instead of, I think in Merida, I think you've got Rapunzel in that one scene with the 3 princesses. So you didn't really miss anything. It's a great show, of course.
Sam says, having not seen it, but yeah.
No, I'm saying it is a great. No, we have seen Seize the Adventure on board.
No, I know.
So it can't be that different, right?
Yeah.
But the other show, Remember, please tell me you were able to make Remember.
We did see Remember, and I think again, people should know is you are assigned a certain time to be able to go, and when you go in after we got our phones fixed, we were at the right time for that on the second day. And you have to show a cast member going into the theater that you are assigned to that time. I think Remember, it depends on the questions you ask me later, but Remember is a solid number 2 of my favorite shows. I think the way they told that story, and it is your kind of variety show, right? You get a sampling from a lot of Disney IP there, but the way they told the show was the story. I'm sorry. It was phenomenal. And I think the puppetry was some of my favorite as well. I think it was great. Absolutely great.
And Wally and Eve are 2 of the main characters who, I mean, you can't really go wrong with Wally and Eve.
Yeah, we weren't sure how they were going to tell the story, using Wally and Eve, limited vocal range. And I think it makes sense. Again, you have a lot of cultures coming in together, a lot of different languages on this ship. You have to be able to communicate in ways that aren't all in English, even though everything in the ship is English based. But I think for the audience to be able to enjoy the full content of the show, they really were clever with it. And again, the puppetry of Wally and Eve were great.
Rich, I want to step back and ask a couple of questions just about like how full the ship felt, because this is 6,000 passengers on board, 50% more than on the Wish class. Talk to us a little bit about like how was the crowd control? Did it feel full? And also, what was the mix of folks on board? Because this ship is really aimed at Southeast Asia. So do you feel like there was a good mix of international presence on board, at least for the Maiden, or was it really, really hitting hard into that Southeast Asian kind of fan base?
So from a capacity standpoint, the first time I noticed was during our muster. So we were assigned to the Disney Theater for our muster drill, and it was about 2/3 full. And I was surprised by that. Kind of talking to other guests throughout, because I kept expecting it to feel more full than it was. But there was only, according to rumors, there was 3,800 passengers on the Maiden. So it wasn't at capacity.
That's what I heard. It's because it's that the rooms most of the rooms were taken. It wasn't that, but you have a lot of couples on board, a lot of adults, not as many kids, which makes sense. It's a maiden voyage, right? And during school times, even in Asia, right? So you're talking about, people who want to sail a Maiden often are like Disney adults, not Disney families.
How packed was the pool deck?
It really wasn't. And I think maybe to Sam's point, there wasn't a lot of families. So most of the kids that we saw were, I'm going to say, under 12. We didn't see a lot of teen or tween age kids. So the pools, while they were being utilized, it wasn't crowded, at least not any experience that I saw.
And what's the weather like sailing in that area? I mean, hot and humid?
It's hot. And humid. And I think Singapore, for the most part, is pretty consistent. It's like kind of that low to mid 80s year round. We didn't experience, I think one day there was a little bit of rain, but the seas were pretty calm. There was a little rocking on day 3, I think it was, but nothing significant. And maybe because you're in a ship that size, it's harder to rock it. But the weather was great. Getting up, we had sunshine. And at night, for the Lion King fireworks show, it's still comfortable. You didn't need to be in a jacket or sweatshirt. I think a t-shirt worked just fine. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, well, we saw the ship track. It was just basically doing donuts just off the coast of Singapore. Let me go back because I may have missed it. But what was the mix of the crowd like on board? Was it a pretty good international mix, or did it skew pretty heavily Southeast Asian?
I think it was majority Asian, maybe not Southeast Asian. There was a lot of Japanese guests, a lot of Korean guests, and then you did have Southeast Asian and Indian representation there as well. So a pretty good mix. I would say generally Americans, there were maybe 20-25% of the ship. And that's just kind of a ballpark. Yeah, the majority of the ship were people from Asia.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the case for the inaugural season, or at least the first couple of months. I think you're going to see more Americans on that ship than you will see her, let's say, when she hits her 1 year mark, right? Because there are lots of folks like you who are completionists. They want to check off that, they want to check off the box. They've been on the adventure. They want to check out what the new shows, I've
got my pin ready, Sam, to give that check mark. I mean, we can't be the DCL duo and not have sailed on every ship.
I know. We'll figure it out. We just, it's hard to find the right timing. But
hey, Rich, can I ask one more question about staterooms on board? Because these are probably a bit unique in the Disney system. There's a lot of different types of staterooms, more so than on the other ships. So, what kind of stateroom did you book, and how was it as compared to your experience in kind of other Disney Cruise Line staterooms in terms of, size, layout, amenities, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we had that inside stateroom. I don't remember the exact class of it, but it was just a one bedroom. One bed. It felt, from a size perspective, it felt comfortable. There are some differences and nuances and things. You've probably already heard the closets are open instead of having doors on them. We did notice the bathroom had the split bathroom as always, but there was definitely less storage space in the, I guess you would call it the toilet room. Where if you have a family, we utilize both rooms to get ready at a time, and it would be very difficult to do that in the smaller room. The shower, on the other hand, was a lot bigger. And a big kind of like a walk-in shower, as opposed to some of the older ships have the kind of that big tub in the middle and a little smaller. A couple things that were different too. There's a service light on the outside of each room. You can either flip it red if you don't want to be disturbed, or you have somebody come by and clean up your room, or the green indicates that you need some help or you want some things. Those were nice little touches. The hallways were different. I didn't expect the hallways to be as long as they are, and maybe that's kind of dumb in hindsight. But navigating these hallways, where on other ships, Wish class or some of the other small ones, the hallways kind of have these little. They don't go on forever. They have these little, they move to the left or the right, little zigzags. These ones just go. So what I ended up navigating the ship is, again, a Wish or Dream or something. I would usually take an elevator down to whatever level I wanted to go to, and then move across forward or aft. This one, getting forward or aft was easier. I found just staying on our level and taking that long hallway as long as I could, and then moving over to the elevator bank or stairwell, and then moving up or down. So it was just a little differences like that kind of made a difference. The rest of the stateroom, I'd heard some negativity around maybe artwork and things. In my experience, it was nice. It still had that Disney feel to it. I didn't, you walk into some of these and you still feel like you're at home. So I thought it was great.
Channeling Lynn Testa's favorite review, how was the bed? Was the bed up to Disney standards? Because, everyone raves about those mattresses.
Yeah, I'm going to guess they're not as good, but,
Not quite. The bedding's different. It was still great. Yeah, you still get a great night's sleep after a full day of adventure, pun intended, right? But the sheets and the bedding are a little different than what you see on the other ships. Yeah.
Last question for me before I let Sam get back into her rhythm. But I was curious how much of the Disney Cruise Line culture got imported over. And actually, let me give you two questions. One is stateroom magnets, fish extenders. Like, did you see that stuff going on in the hallways? And then the second part of my question is going to be just about crew and service, because we've heard that somewhere around 80% of these crew are brand new to the cruise line. How'd they do? So take those in whichever order you'd like.
I'll try to go in the right order. If I miss one, correct me, please. But then that Disney culture, the Disney Cruise Line culture, there are no fish hook extenders. Those don't.
There's nothing to hang her on.
I think Disney none. Cruise Line has been nonplussed with this fish extender thing for a long time, and so this is a way to handle it. We just won't give you something to hang on.
Yeah, just not there.
Yeah.
But I did see people kind of do their own makeshift with hooks and other things that they had brought, maybe those magnetic hooks on the outside of the stateroom. I will say the door decorating game was next level. I have not seen this anywhere, and I didn't expect it. We saw some door decorations that were really incredible. One of them, again, going back to that giant long hallway, there was a room at the very end on deck 15, and they had Duffy Polaroids. So Duffy on all their adventures around the world. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say there was over 100 of these things pasted everywhere. There was people that had flowers and just wreaths and all of the decorations were incredible. I came home. I feel like ours is pretty good, but we came home and my wife and I were talking. We need to step up our game after.
How can I magnetically attach a water feature to my door? That must be possible.
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
It's hard. Listen, you were packing carry-on, so it's
true.
You had to be very judicious with what magnets you'd bring with you and bring home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it was they did a great job. And your question to the crew, you're right. A lot of the cast members that we spoke to were either earning their ears, they still had the little red earning their ears thing on their name tag, or they had just had them removed. But I don't think from a Disney standard, we saw any drop in the level of service from the folks that we interacted with. Everybody was fantastic. And even if they were earning their ears or just earning their ears, they were very upfront with it, saying, hey, I don't know the answer, but let's figure this out together. And I think, again, going on the Maiden Voyage as well, you kind of expect a little bit of that too. It's a new ship. Maybe you've had some guests, whether a preview cruise or something prior, but your first, paying customers, if you will, there's still a lot to figure out and comes with the Maiden territory. So, but everybody was fantastic.
I got to ask, going back to the app, because I want to find out a little bit more about how things worked with bookings. I know that from us talking to Jeremiah, there, certain things you have to book in the app, like character meet and greets. And you mentioned about how the show, you had a reserved time. Like, was there an ability to do things outside of booking in the app? For example, were there any character meet and greets that were outside of the app? And then was there any flexibility with like changing your show time or did you try? I mean, I'm curious because I'm sure a lot of people will just be like, oh, that's my show time and that's what I'm going to go to. But I'm curious if you had any opportunity to sort of change things or adjust things either in the app or with guest services.
I wish we would have been able to change our Seize the Adventure because we missed it, but it was only offered on that day. And we missed the last show, so that was done. But the rest of the shows for like Imagination Garden, you didn't have to reserve anything. Those were all, so we're talking the Duffy show, the Baymax, the Marvel show, even not in Imagination Garden, but Wayfinder Bay, there's Tales of Moana. That didn't need to be reserved either. I think it's really only the Disney theater shows that had to be reserved, but they were reserved for us. I didn't have to go in and pick a time. It just said, here's your time. We did have to book, especially on night one, times to go into the shops. So those weren't readily available for people, but they stayed open really late. Again, back to the amazing cast members. They knew people wanted to get in there. They were so helpful. If you had something that you wanted to find specifically, there was people to help and try to navigate you through all of that. But we didn't find the booking process to be terribly difficult. You do have to book I guess we'll call it those quick service restaurants. But we never had an issue with that either. We kind of knew the night prior, our strategy was what our next day layout was going to look like. And so we would try to book a lunch around an appropriate time. And again, we never, for a party of 4, never ran into any difficulty or had to make hard decisions about whether we could or couldn't do a certain thing. Character meet and greets. I did notice some impromptu ones as well that didn't require you. We were in Tiana's having a coffee and Goofy came by and then just set up, but that wasn't advertised. It was just one of those magical moments.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. I've got to ask sort of the bigger picture question. Were there things you really wanted to do that you felt like you didn't have enough time to do? Because this was a 3-night sailing. And so there's a lot to do. There's, as we've talked about, there's 7 different lands on this ship. So it's very similar to, or more similar maybe to a parks experience than what we're traditionally used to on cruise line. But yeah, were there things you really had wanted to do that, besides Iron Cycle, because I know you mentioned the coaster, but besides Iron Cycle, which was not up for anybody, were there things you wanted to do but felt like you just didn't have enough time to do? I want to give advice to people who are thinking about going over to Singapore for the adventure. Do they take just a 3-night sailing? Do they take a 4-night sailing? Is that really even enough?
In my opinion, a 3-night it's really challenging. We were on the move quite a bit to try to consolidate and get as much in there. I would have liked to have more time to experience more of the bars, other places that we didn't get a chance to eat, especially up on, I think it was deck 17, 18, in the Avengers area.
Oh yeah, there's like
area.
A hot dog place, right? There's
there's the infinity pools. There's the drink list is all based on the different infinity stones. Like, to being able to go try, we went by, I took a picture of the menu, but I didn't have a chance to go sit down and just kind of relax and have a drink there. And I think that was just more time constraint, just trying to get around and see as much of the ship as possible. 3 nights is difficult. I think a 4th night you probably could, but you'd also sacrifice some things. Like, we didn't once step into the spa. Trading off time to explore the ship versus time in the spa, we felt like that was probably made more sense to walk around. And again, I think, with the dining rotation, I would love to have seen, again, Hollywood. I would love to experience some of the other ones outside of our normal. And if you're going to do Palo, if you're going to do the Mike and Sulley's, you are going to have to sacrifice one of your normal restaurants as well. So I think the 3 nights is a little difficult, doable, but understanding that you are going to have to miss out on something.
Yeah. Well, and you're getting a taste of the ship, I think, is when you're on even a 4-night. I think you're not, there's, to your point, you can't, there's so many new bar spaces on this ship as well, right? There's Spellbound Lounge. There's where you get the Infinity Stone drinks. There's the Marvel style studio where it has the speakeasy in it at night, right? Like, there's just a lot of really cool spaces to explore that it would be impossible unless you forewent everything else, right? You could just sort of bar hop on this ship and see nothing else, and you'd have a full schedule, as opposed to going to the shows and seeing the deck party shows, the fireworks show, of course. Okay, I didn't ask you about fireworks at sea. I gotta ask, is that show 12 minutes of amazingness?
It's amazing. Word of caution for those coming from the States or Canada, it's late. It starts at 10:30, so you're going to be tired, but really well done. Again, it's deck 18. I was worried, kind of, Brian, your question earlier about capacity, being able to get everybody up there. It was busy. I don't know at full capacity how they're going to do that, but there are places around the ship I think you'd be able to see, but most people were up on 17, 18, getting a view of that.
Yeah. All right. The last thing before we go over to rapid fire, I've got to ask you about is not the merch that you purchase at the shops, but I want to know about special gifts on board for the Maiden.
I just saw a special quilted inaugural bag that got handed out, I think. So yeah, what did they give you? What's all the merch?
Give you? Gotta know, what did they give you, Rich?
So as platinum members, we got a passport holder, very similar to what we got on Destiny. But obviously adventure focused. Blue is really cool. I thought the lanyards were actually really cool on the adventure. They're a little bit smaller than the other ones, but really, really well done. They were beautiful. The tote bag that you mentioned, that was a gift. We had a hand fan, like a little like electronic hand fan. Yeah, and we saw a lot of people using them throughout the ship. You're up on the pool decks and stuff. Having their hand fan.
Smarter than the cup speaker combo they gave us on the
page. We did get a cup. It wasn't the champagne flute that you got, that we got on the Treasure Maiden or the Destiny Maiden, but it was more of a cup that I think we had on a Wish, one of the inaugural Wish sailings. And then we got a water bottle. That's kind of handy too. So that was night one. Or day one, day two.
That's a lot for just one night. Yeah.
Yeah. Day two, we got luggage tags. We got luggage covers and a little dry bag that came with it. And then the last night, we got the Maiden Voyage keel coin that the little plaque that you get. And then
it comes in like a lucite little display thing. Yeah. It's
exactly.
Really nice.
And then we got a little bag. It had a tin with cookies in it, and some chocolate covered coffee beans and some gummy bears. So a little treat to go to. And the tin was Maiden Voyage as well. So I'm not sure I think the Pearls got a couple other things, but
yeah, probably night one, they probably got a couple of like one or two extra things. They don't, as the nights go on, everybody's getting the same stuff. It's just that first day you get something different because you're getting if you have Pearl, you're getting the full complement of the castaway gifts. And so you'll get one extra or two extra castaway gifts depending upon whatever the Pearl gift is. That sounds honestly really nice, especially a lot of stuff to get for 3 nights. Did you have to throw out the underwear and the socks like we talked about?
we were able to keep, I think, everything.
Wow.
The trickiest part was, you mentioned Spellbound. I did buy the poison apple.
You did. That's the witch, and she's a big,
is big.
Ceramic cup. Yeah.
So we ended up using the tote bag that we got as a gift, wrapping the witch almost like a baby, and using that was our carry-on. We were lucky enough that because Korean Air and Delta are partners, they checked our bags on the way home all the way through, so we didn't have to worry about that. So we were able to cheat a little bit in that regard. But yeah, there was a lot of merch going back home.
Yeah, you had the witch wrapped as a baby burrito.
That's right.
As we used to call Nathan, the way we'd swaddle him as a baby burrito. I love it.
I've got a couple of last questions here, and then I'll throw it over to Sam for rapid fire. So I wanted to ask you, Rich, for one highlight, one thing that surprised you, and one opportunity you think that they have with the adventure.
Opportunity means something to improve, FYI.
I think the highlight for me had to be that omakase dinner. And that really did, that surprised me a lot, because there was, again, going back to our other dining experiences on other ships, we've had some fabulous meals, and that was so far above what I had expected. That was absolutely incredible. So highlight the other surprise, I think I was really surprised by the quality of the entertainment. Disney, of course, always does a great job, and we love shows on, across the fleet. But this, I felt like they really stepped up, and the entertainment across the ship was really well done. Where I think they could improve, there was less for adults on this ship than what I would have liked to see. There was no match your mate. There's no choose your adventure show. There's nothing specifically catered to adults, and there's no adult only areas throughout the ship either. And so I would have,
So the bars and lounges are open for all ages then at all times?
That's correct. One of the cast members told us they were testing it out to see, but again, kind of leaning back into the cultural nuance of the ship, they were worried initially that might not land well with some of the families that are coming. So there's not like an adults only area or like a Luna Sarabi kind of focused area where a lot of those adult games happen. I wish they would have done something with that.
Yeah, I'd be curious about the cultural component of that. I can see where they're coming from there. Last question from me, Rich, is just going to be, all right, you flew all the way to Singapore to get on the adventure, did the 3-night thing, the thing that I swore off. I was like, no way I can make this happen without becoming just a miserable human being after all that travel. Would you go back to Singapore to get on the adventure, or are you thinking, we got enough ships here at home to keep me happy. I don't need to fly all the way to Asia.
It's a great question, and one that we've wrestled with on our way off the ship. We're like, we're done. Like we came, we saw, we conquered, we're good. We hadn't even taken off yet. And my wife were talking about, again, like our trip in December, coming back with the kids, experiencing it again. It is a long way, to your point. And I think you're 4 hours away from Hong Kong, 6 hours from Shanghai. So if there's an opportunity to maybe consolidate and combine a couple of those trips, maybe again, one of our lists is to get all of the Disney parks too. You have an opportunity to do that by tacking on a Hong Kong stay or a Shanghai stay, or maybe both. But if you were to go over there just for the adventure, I think that's tough. I think that would be a tough sell. But combining it with all of the other spectacular parts of that world, the world over there, I think it's an awesome extension to a trip.
I would also make the case that going over there and doing like we're going to have a guest coming up that's done, she did back to back to back to back, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, and so, she did the first 4 sailings.
Yeah, first 4 sailings. So like I could see a setup where it's like, we're going to go to Singapore and get in the adventure, but we're going to be staying on board for a little while because we do want to have the flexibility to get into all of these different places and see everything in a little bit less pressured filled way. I could make that argument in my head for the travel over there. Or as you said, absolutely, if you want to go to Tokyo Disney or Shanghai Disney or Hong Kong, like totally makes sense to couple the trips together. I do think my instinct is don't fly over there for a 3 or a 4 night or maybe a 5 night sailing. Like it is going to be a pressure filled vacation and a lot of exhaustion setting in. So yeah.
Yeah. By the time you get used to the time change, you're back on a plane going back home. And it's a hard turnaround for 3 nights.
Yeah. Well, and I think, adults are a little bit, might sort of psych themselves up and prepare and do that marathon. I think it'll be harder for folks from the US coming, particularly with younger kids, but even with like teenagers, right? Like it's, they need their sleep and it's a bit hard if you take them off their normal schedule.
All right. Well, Rich, it is that time when I need to hand you back over to Sam for some arbitrary questions, some arbitrary rules, and more than a dash of judgment, or the round we know as rapid fire. So Sam, take it away.
All right. I love this because you are my first rapid fire guest who has been on all 8 ships. So really, Rich, this is like monumental. All right. So we're gonna start with, of course, your Disney favorites, and then we'll go over cruise line favorites. So we'll start with who is your favorite Disney character, and Disney means everything and anything that Disney owns or licenses or whatnot. So Bluey counts is what I mean by that.
Well, you may not be able to tell, but my background, I'm in a Star Wars office. So I'm going to have to go with Darth Vader.
My Vader. I love it.
Or my favorite Disney character, yeah.
I love it. That's a great answer. All right. Favorite Disney movie?
The one, I'm going to try to make sure my answers aren't all Star Wars.
No, you listen. I like it. That's fun, but then you have to pick like Rogue One or Andor, though. But I guess Andor's not a movie.
Rogue One probably is my favorite, but from an animated movie, I would say Ratatouille. I find that anytime Ratatouille's on, I'm watching it. It's just great to have on
Yeah. And it's not even a musical. And I love
No.
it too, Rich.
It's just a great feel-good story. It's
a great
I love it.
story. Yeah. All right. Favorite Disney song?
I knew you were going to ask this, and I don't have a great answer. I think
Imperial March. Come on.
I think you have to say Circle of Life is like that opening in Zulu, the announcements. If you don't get goosebumps from that, I don't know if you're human. Or Friend Like Me. It has to be.
Oh.
There you go. Perfect. I would say Friend Like Me is another great one that always gets you moving a little bit. So
I love it. I love it. All right. Now we're going to jump over to Disney Cruise Line, and we're going to start with the most important, I think the most important question for me, but not the most important question for everybody else. But what's your favorite Disney Cruise Line stage show? You previewed to me that Remember is maybe now holds the number 2 spot. So now I know you've been on all of the domestic ships. So you got to tell me which one is your favorite.
I don't know how they're ever going to beat Moana. That's incredible. And just kind of mind blowing with that whole performance. So I'm going to stick with Moana on the Treasure. I think that's the best. And Remember might be number 2.
Wow. All right. This high praise for Remember. Yeah. Beating out Hercules, beating out Beauty and the Beast. Wow. That's pretty great. Okay. I realized, is my mochi backwards? Yeah, my mochi's been backwards this whole time. I realize on my ears, for those listening and not watching, Mochi's not looking at the camera. I guess he doesn't want to make his yeah.
Eyes in the back of your head.
Eyes in the back of my head. That's right. But Baymax is the right direction. It's just Mochi. Oh no, he's right. Oh, you just can't see his nose. He was just sitting too far up. Okay, he's there. All right. Sorry, Rich. Little guy. That was a little squirrel moment from me. Okay, we're gonna jump to your favorite Disney Cruise Line activity. And so this doesn't have to be on board the adventure, but thing you like to do on board a Disney ship.
I think this has changed over time, but I've really come to enjoy bingo.
Did they have bingo on the adventure?
They did. They had a couple bingo slots to play. But over time, as our kids have gotten older, it's kind of on the ships, they go their own directions, except for bingo and dinner. Bingo and dinner are our family times. And I don't know if that says more about our family and the desire to win money. But bingo is probably my favorite activity.
Oh, I actually really like that because it's like, even though we're not huge bingo fans because we never win, but I like that because it's one of those, if it's bringing the family together, that's an amazing activity regardless of what it is. All right, we got to talk dining. Favorite rotational dining, whatever restaurant. It could be across the fleet. It could be over on the Adventure. It could be Treasure. It could be Destiny. Which one is your favorite? I have a feeling, but I'm putting it in my head, and I'm not going to say it until after you say what it's going to be.
And if it starts with a C, are you going to go with Coco?
I was going to guess Pride Lands, actually.
Oh, okay.
But,
no,
yeah.
Coke. I think Coco. Pride Lands is up there too. I really love those performative dinners. But I just the food and the music, the show of Coco, I think is fantastic. The entrance, getting into the restaurant, kind of all those hidden storylines kind of as you're walking in, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. I think both Coco and Pride Lands were such like a win for Disney. I mean, even I have to say I even like Arendelle. It's quite loud, but I think that's a hilarious show with Oaken, and I love seeing Oaken and Kristoff sing "Let It Go." I think that's just incredible. So yeah. All right, we got to talk food specifically. A favorite savory item and a favorite sweet item on a Disney cruise. Could be on the Adventure, could be on any of the other ships. We start with the sweets because we save the best for last. So what's a favorite sweet item?
So the obvious is the churro waffles. By the way, shout out to the Adventure on their churro waffle game. Might be the best churro waffles I've had ever. And the line to get them, they're over in the kids section, so you feel a little judged, but there was no line at all. So the guy just kept putting them on my plate. But they were incredible. Outside of churro waffles,
those international guests don't know what they're missing.
They don't. So I've loaded up with a pile like an animal. But the raspberry macaron ice cream is my go-to. I always get a few scoops of that on whenever I can.
All right. Favorite savory item?
If I'm feeling fancy, we're doing ossobuco and a glass of wine at Palo. Otherwise, you're going to find me on a wish class. They're a little bit better. Pool deck burgers are fantastic. So that's my go-to.
Love it. All right. We got to talk water slides because you have been on all the ships. And so I've got to ask you Aqua Dunk, Aqua Duck, Aqua Mouse, or I don't know, it could be Woody and Jesse's water slides on the Adventures. So
I didn't experience those, so I'm going to have to exclude those ones.
They're kind of kid slides anyway. They're not real intense. Yeah.
But I think the Aqua Mouse with the stories, the videos, all of it going on the Aqua Mouse, those are hard to beat. Those are great.
Okay, now what other people might say is the most important question, which is your favorite ship. You have more to choose from than Brian and I even. So you have 8 ships. Which one, if you could be on one tomorrow, which one are you jumping on?
I think this is an easy one for me. If I had to rank them, it would be difficult, but to pick the number one, it's the Treasure. I love the Treasure. I love everything about it. We had such a great experience going on that Maiden. The 7-night Maiden was nice to experience. So walking away from that ship and trip, that was a highlight for sure.
Yeah. Well, they did some really good gifts, and being on for, like you said, being on a new ship for 7 nights is the best because you really do feel like you can experience everything and still get some time to relax, as opposed really anything shorter than that. The 4-night Destiny was great, but it was too short. The Wish was 5-night Maiden, also too short, right? So yeah, I totally agree. All right, bucket list cruise. You've, of course, now sailed out of Singapore, so check that off the bucket list. Done. You've sailed all 8 Disney Cruise Line ships. Check that off the bucket list. Eventually, there'll be 13, so you still have more work to do, Rich. Don't worry. You have time. But those are 2 TBD. So, yeah, you could go on any Disney ship in the fleet. Doesn't really matter. You can go anywhere in the world. Doesn't really have to even be someplace that Disney Cruise Line currently goes. Just has to be someplace accessible by water. Where would you go, Rich, on your bucket list cruise?
So August of 2020, we had this cruise booked on Disney, and obviously it was canceled. I would love to be able to go on a Baltic cruise. It was Denmark, Estonia, had a stop in St. Petersburg, Russia. I think you had Helsinki. Kind of that area up there is an area that I haven't traveled to before. I would love to experience that. Or if Disney ever came up with like an around the world sailing, like some of these other lines do, that would be pretty hard to turn down. I'm sure the sticker on that would be quite high, but an around the world cruise, or again, on a more realistic, I would do a Baltic on probably, I don't know that I would want to do it on a Wish class. I would probably do a Dream or Fantasy, I think.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, Rich, thank you for playing. You know, A++, flying colors. I'm sorry I missed your dining rotation. I thought you were going to choose Pride Lands with that moment from Circle of Life, which I of course love and have a very strong affinity, of course, for anything Lion King. But why don't you tell folks where they can find you, follow you, and if they want to book a cruise with you? I know you don't do it as your full-time job. This is a side gig, as we talked about prior to the show. But if folks want to book a cruise with you or another Disney vacation, how can they find you?
No, I appreciate it. Yeah. So we have Family Passport Adventures is our company, and we help people, again, friends, family, those that are really interested in the cruising or adventure community, to get out and explore the world with their families. And we've traveled to all 7 continents as a family, and been able to, been privileged to be able to experience some of this stuff. So kind of lending that firsthand experience to folks. FamilyPassportAdventures.com or Family Passport Adventures on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We so appreciate it. Please, of course, reach out to us again whenever you are sailing the high seas with Disney. We'd love to have you come back.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
Well, thanks to everyone out there for listening this week. We really, really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you can keep getting great content from us every week. In fact, twice a week we publish shows. So be sure to hit the subscribe button to get all of those great episodes. And if you want to watch us live, we have a live show now every week, Monday nights, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern over on youtube.com/DCL Duo. So be sure to head over and check that out. If you want to help support the show, be sure to hit those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you leave us a written review, a 5-star written review, we will read it at the top of one of our main episodes. So please head over there and hit those 5 stars. Of course, you can also help support the show by supporting our fabulous show sponsor, My Path Unwinding Travel. If you want to book your next Disney vacation, head over to mypathunwinding.com/DCL Duo or email them at dclduo@mypathunwinding.com so they know we sent you their way. If you've got questions or you'd like to connect with us, the best way to do that is to head over to dclduo.com. It's got links to all of our things, full catalog of the podcast episodes, including a searchable catalog for the podcast, links off to our vlog, a link to our Etsy store where we sell some fun fan-inspired magnets, link to our Patreon if you'd like to help directly support the show each and every month. Just head over to the website or patreon.com/DCLDuo. Also has a way for you to sign up for our Substack newsletter that we're hoping to start really pumping out monthly here at least, and a few blog articles that we've written. So DCLDuo.com is the best way to connect with us. You can also, of course, email us at info@DCLDuo.com or reach out to us on our voicemail line at 402-413-5590. That's 402-413-5590. The DCL Duo podcast is not affiliated with Disney Cruise Line, the Disney Company, or the Disney family of theme parks. The views expressed on the show are solely those of the individuals on the podcast and in no way reflect the views of the Disney Company or Disney Cruise Line. If you have questions about a Disney cruise or a Disney vacation, please contact the great folks over at My Path Unwinding Travel or Disney directly or your own travel agent. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time for another fabulous adventure with the DCL Duo. Good night.